Right, well, welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us. Um, we're obviously all here to chat about our upcoming practitioner program, Transformational Medicine, Alchemising Pain into Power. If you have any questions that are sitting in the back of your mind and you want to just pop them into the chat now, then we'll get around to answering them at the end. But we'll have a Q&A for everyone once we've had a little bit more of a chat and I guess gone through in a bit more detail what the retreat and online program actually involves. I think we've been dreaming up something like this for a really, really long time. So it's really exciting to see it finally coming to fruition and quite I suppose, interesting timing in light of the recent Four Corners program, which Peta was interviewed on, which really looked at the ways that the medical model of managing pelvic pain can fail so many women. And so we hope that what we're offering is something that shows people another way of doing things that really benefits both our patients, number one, but also ourselves as practitioners.
Yeah, because I mean, this program has come out of like years of us sitting across from women who have had really arduous, long, painful journeys dealing with their chronic symptoms and particularly pelvic pain or endometriosis. And really us witnessing these women and seeing that what we were really trained for in managing endometriosis and pelvic pain was woefully inadequate. Really, most of the things that we do with our patients now, we never learned in medical school or in our gynecology training. And there are lots of barriers in conventional models to treating women with the time, compassion, and care that they actually need that actually works to help them heal. But we kind of had to just find this out for ourselves just after, just hearing like literally like war stories where there's the initial symptom or condition or pain. And then there is like, to be really frank, I think we have a system and we have individual practitioners who are trying their best and are doing what they were taught to do, but the system and the education isn't set up to deal with the complexity of these issues. And they are failing women and actually contributing to harm. And I think that was what was so very obvious on that Four Corners program. So out of this, we really had to, like our patients taught us so much of what we know. And we obviously went off and learnt lots of other things. So I did some integrative medicine. We've done pain reprocessing therapy. We've done lots of yoga and nervous system
And
work,
spiritual
practice as well, which we think is really important when it comes to dealing with these things, because I guess we view pain and chronic symptoms in a very different way to what we were conventionally taught. You have a symptom, that means there is a physical problem or a pathology. And in many cases, that's part of it. But we like to think in systems. And we like to think that, especially with chronic symptoms, that they are a really important message. It's like a downstream message and giving you information about what's happening in our nervous system, in our environment, and then how that has such a huge effect on our whole systems. And so obviously, if we're talking about something like endometriosis, if we're just focusing on the very like downstream bottom part of that, we're missing all of the other components, the nervous system, the like inflammation in the body, whether it be normal inflammation or increased inflammation that can occur in chronic pain conditions, the gut, the nervous system, the way the brain amplifies pain, the impact of the environment on all of that. All these greater systems are super important to focus on. And in order to do that, we as clinicians need firstly, the right information, and we also need our nervous systems to be resourced so that we can like sit and be present and help to co-regulate and help someone in front of us to find safety, because we thoroughly believe that that is the absolute first step when it comes to dealing with this before we even get to any targeted medical therapy.
Absolutely. I think like when you can start to view pain or any chronic symptom really as a sort of state dependent output of a nervous system that is dysregulated, you can start to see that to focus on only the symptom and getting rid of the symptom is fruitless. And in fact, zooming out and looking at why a person's nervous system is dysregulated in the first place really becomes the path to healing. And then we often get to a point with our patients where we can absolutely flip everything on its head and realize that the symptom is actually a really important message coming from the body, pointing a person to where their stress is too much or they're living out of alignment with, you know, what their soul truly desires, where the level of danger felt as being too high, whatever it might be that's pushing their nervous system into a survival state. And so then their body and their symptoms become their friend. And each time they get a symptom, it's their body tapping them on the shoulder saying, come on, stop, have a look around, see where things aren't quite working.
Yeah, and it's about really focusing on that protection piece as the key driver to ongoing pain. And in that conventional model, if we're just all about we'll fix the lesion or we'll cut out the lesion, we'll fix the pain, then we are missing the incredibly key thing that all pain neuroscience tells us now is that the fear and protection keep us stuck in pain. So if we go to just say, well, it's really important that we get rid of the symptom, automatically our nervous system and our brain are like, well, this must be dangerous and I must have to be on high alert and continue to be hypervigilant, which is why we see that it doesn't work for so many of our patients.
Yes, which is traditionally what we're taught in medicine, which is pain must be gotten rid of. For women particularly, your cycles are a big source of pain, so your cycle must be gotten rid of. And if you think about, you know, how we've been saying that, you know, often fear and protection in the nervous system is what's driving pain, well, actually our response as practitioners can be a really important part of whether we increase that fear that a patient might have about their body or whether we can help to soothe that fear. And the thing is, all of this takes time. Like all of this takes time and a really, as you said before, like a really well-resourced practitioner to be able to sit with the discomfort that our patients have and not immediately jump in to want to fix and get rid of pain, but to actually sit with the pain as a message and together try and sort of untangle the symptoms and flesh out like what is it that your body's telling you. And that's really what we want to try and help people learn and discover in this course. But ultimately, and I think the way we've built the course is that the first half of both the in-person retreat and the online course are really focused on you as the practitioner, really focused on helping practitioners of all disciplines to turn inward and to look at themselves, where they might have overprotection, fear, nervous system dysregulation, which we all have, like all of us, we still do, to kind of, to really do that inner work, to then be a source of co-regulation and a regulated nervous system that we can use to then help our patients navigate their path to healing.
And that is the most important medicine, is just to be able to provide that time, that safety, that presence where you, like, I think how often has it been where just having someone come in and say, just having you listen and being able to tell my story, that is validation and that is really healing. And that doesn't have to be done with a scalpel or 5 operations, you know, that we can do that in the first appointment and we can help to, you know, dial down fear. And, you know, if we think about if someone is really in that wound up, dysregulated, protective place, and they have pain. Of course, they're worried about what's going on, and they come into a practitioner, and their first things are, there must be something terrible. We need to cut it out or turn off your cycle. That's we're kind of being met as patients with this dysregulation and fear and fixing, which keeps everybody stuck. Like it keeps the patient stuck in this helpless, uh, lack of choice, like fear-based model that really perpetuates pain. And we talk a lot about that in our course.
And perpetuates the idea that their bodies are their enemy.
Yeah, and that their healing is to be found outside of them. And as doctors who are then in this rescuer model, and if or clinicians of any kind, often when we're dealing with these complex people and we're always in that rescuing model, what happens to us? We burn out. And then if you think about this sort of idea of the victim or fear, rescuer, perpetrator triad, and we all move around those corners and we just keep ourselves stuck there because we are we're stuck in that fixing model and we're not giving agency to the person. And I think one of the things that really hit me by looking at the Four Corners program was looking at these women who really were in fear and were going to a health professional to help them. They were desperate and they were then told what they needed to do to get them out of pain. It didn't seem like in any of the cases where these women were presented with evidence about making their own decisions, their nervous system, their all of the other components that could lead to their pain was not even considered. They were not partners in their care, and I think that's what we're so passionate about. And we really think that in our framework of transformational medicine, which is why we think it's so powerful, is because we can all break out of that victim, perpetrator, rescuer triangle, that we become on the same level as the people who are coming to see us. And I think that that's so important because it starts with our presence as a practitioner. It leads to relational safety, so that co-regulation. We talk about how to do that and why that's important. The absolute critical importance of neuroeducation and helping someone to obtain body literacy, which dials down fear, which regulates the nervous system right away, which reduces inflammation. And we talk about all of the evidence involved in just that. This is before we do any targeted medical stuff. Then when they understand their body, we can start moving into nervous system regulation tools. And there's like so much evidence, obviously, about how that is anti-inflammatory, how it helps with pain, it helps with dialing amplification down in the brain. And then we examine, it's not just obviously like breathe and do yoga. If you're in a dangerous environment, we've got to consider our environment because our bodies are in constant communication and flow with our environments. And there's none of this, if we're dysregulated, is our body doing the wrong thing. It's an adaptive response to our environment that can become maladaptive. So we must consider that. Where in our life are we out of alignment? Are we in a job that we hate? Are we in a relationship that's toxic? Are we doing what we're here to do on this planet? And then we get to intuitive, embodied wisdom and agency. And that is like, so we think getting to that point with a client is important before we even think about making a decision about their care. And then we get to, okay, well, these might be the factors in your particular situation, and these are all of the options. And we then would talk about top down and bottom up approaches, and then we would like lay it out like a treatment menu, and then we're truly in partnership. And that is the model that we're really passionate about, and that's, I guess, what the course will be. So retreat is the first 2 days are all about ourselves and embodied practices. So do you want to talk through?
Yeah. Shall we run through it?
Yeah, we'll just share our screen quickly and we'll go through all the details of the retreat. And then
Do you want to click that?
Yep. Sorry, we're very bad.
We are not skilled at computers and we're going to do our best.
Bear with us.
Can you see this? Can someone tell us? Okay.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
I'll pop it in the chat as well, the PDF.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to just run through what's involved in the retreat, so you can kind of see for yourselves and think of any questions that you might like to ask. So it's a 4-day retreat. It starts on the 17th of April, and registration closes on the 10th of April. The days are pretty big and quite jam-packed, but we wanted them to be really juicy and full of very, very nourishing practices for everyone. So we really are aiming to start and finish each day with an embodied practice, with often more scattered throughout the day. But Paula, our beautiful physio who couldn't be here tonight, is going to be leading us in a lot of those practices. So on day one, she's going to talk about creating a sacred space at home, and where, you know, we can make a place that we can go each day to kind of bookend our day, start and finish our day, to promote our own nervous system regulation. And she's going to work through a values exercise as well with us there, which is going to be all about really working out what we are here to do, what things are truly important to us, and how we can then start to craft our lives and our work around that. Danielle Arabina, one of our GPs, is going to do a welcome to country. And then we're going to have more didactic teaching in the middle of the days. So we're going to talk about actually what our philosophy of transformational medicine is. And Peta alluded to those kind of different layers of healthcare that we have really identified as being so incredibly important for our patients, essentially finding their own embodiment and connection to their own body and soul. And I think what's most important that you said is that actually the medical treatment comes last. Like the medical treatment is the thing that we can really only get to once we have that sense of trust and intuition in our own body.
Because really, that's the actual medicine.
Exactly. Because then the last step, the medicine, never needs to happen.
A lot of the time.
Yes. We're going to do lots and lots of teaching about the nervous system. So really talking through like all of the neuroscience, all of the evidence for the way the nervous system impacts pain, and looking at how we can map our nervous systems. And so Paul is going to take us through that, really looking at our own lives and our own bodies and our own nervous systems, and where we are feeling that we might be moving into dysregulation in our day. And really starting to map that and look at that, so that that can be a catalyst to help us work in a way that is more regulated, so that we can be that source of co-regulation for our patients. And that's going to involve lots of embodied practices that you're going to do yourselves, but actually these are practices that we use with our own patients. So helping our patients to identify what nervous system state they might be in, and that can be hyperarousal or sympathetic, hypoarousal or shutdown, but also lots of different blended states, so fawn and freeze.
Which again, super like that's a state that we often see in healthcare.
Yes.
And so being able to identify that in your patients and being able to work with that and help somebody out of that, so that they can come to that embodied intuitive wisdom, is so important.
Because you actually can't teach someone something or give someone information if they're in a dysregulated state, because they will not be feeling safe enough to take that information on. And these are like the most amazingly powerful but simple tools and things that you can do, like with a patient in a chair sitting opposite you, kind of thing. But it first comes down to identifying what state your patient is in, so that you can help them to shift out of that. And then our first day is going to end with breathwork, which is going to be run by our breathwork coach, Alyssa Craig. And that will be all about really sort of integrating the realizations that we've had about our own bodies and our own way of working, to start to sow the seeds of how we might be able to, I guess, make changes in our lives.
And that can be a really profound experience.
Yes.
And that's, a really wonderful thing about the retreat, being able to have these experiences for our for us as clinicians, because we can't understand the importance of them. We can't advise people to do them if we haven't had these experiences ourselves. So that's really awesome. And then when you come out of that, because it's a bit like having a altered state,
Yes.
going on a bit of a journey, you'll have a beautiful dinner that will prepare for you before you head home.
Yep. You want to do day 2?
Yeah, so day 2 starts with yoga for self-compassion. Self-compassion is so important in the work we do, especially with pelvic pain. And then we will do a session on bringing in all that evidence and practices that we can use with our patients and how it affects pain and chronic symptoms. Then I'm talking about menstrual cycle awareness as a nervous system regulation tool, as well as pleasure. It's not there, but in the updated version, we're also talking about the importance of pleasure. Often we get so focused on pain, getting rid of the pain, and it's like we become a horse that's blinkered, and then that's the only thing we think about. So the importance of bringing glimmers and pleasure and all of that into our lives for ourselves and our clients. And often, if you're like us, we were gynecologists who were on the pill for most of our lives until we discovered any of this for ourselves. And our mind is always blown by the idea if a woman's going to a clinician and they have no experience of a menstrual cycle in their own bodies, then that's one whole part of therapy or knowing themselves that they can't relate to. And automatically any symptoms become pathologized because they haven't been able to experience that. So that's a whole thing that we're going to sort of investigate and look at our own attitudes to that and how we could perhaps see a different perspective to be able to offer a different perspective that can be truly healing and is so often left out of the conversation here. Then we go into pelvic, so the pelvic floor, and this will be Paula talking about it's not just going to be a dry pelvic floor muscle tight, causes pain thing. This is all about the way we work with the pelvic floor as the pelvic floor has armored up, it's protecting. It's doing that for a reason, and we need to understand that and work with the person's whole body nervous system to help them unfurl their muscles on their own without what we often see as women being referred to physios for, lots of manual treatment, them again, a little bit like the medical model of stuff being done to them, being reliant on releases and things like that. This is about bringing the woman's awareness to this part of their body that they're often incredibly disconnected from for a good reason, because it's been unsafe to even think about it. And that awareness leads to an understanding where there's tension, where there's holding, where there's trauma. And from that place of returning to safety, then we can start to release. But if we're not safe, then that's going to be completely pointless. So that's so important. And she's going to talk about all of that. And then we're going to do some embodied practices together, because again, these are often things as women that we haven't done. So there'll be Paula has a beautiful meditation called Every Pelvis Has a Story. And so we go into our pelvis and there's a lot of beautiful guided imagery. We talk about de-armoring other pelvic practices. So that's, again, I think anything that we're asking our patients to experience or to connect with, we need to connect with. And if we feel uncomfortable with that, I think that's a big, there's a pointer there, like that there's cultural reasons, there's all sorts of things, but we need to think, why do I feel uncomfortable with that part of my body? So that's, again, a super important thing that we'll be doing. And then we have fun. So then everyone goes home and they come back and we're going to dress up and we're going to wear our most amazing, fabulous goddess outfits that we want, whatever makes us feel amazing and joyful.
And magical.
Yeah, and we're going to do some embodied dance with an incredible woman called Beck Jers, who is a sensual embodied dance teacher. Again, I think this hasn't quite been updated, so there's a few things that are on the program in front that are not quite right, but it's Beck Jers who's doing that. And again, she's all about the sacral energy. And so it's again, dance is an incredibly well-known way to regulate our nervous system, to bring us into our body, to bring us out of our head, to bring us into alignment and
make us feel alive.
Make us feel alive, exactly. And so this is, and this is something that we often recommend to our patients as well, to help them move feelings through. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to have a beautiful feast and a connection.
We'll just jump in, guys. If you go back to the landing page to get the most up-to-date program, the second tab, if you go to the second tab in Chrome and just hit the refresh button, which is the little arrow next to the link on the left.
The arrow next to
the next one, the circle.
The circle.
Oh, there's the circle.
There we go. Yep. Great. Okay.
Thank you.
There you go. And then the online program's on the other side too when you get to it. Yeah. That's the one.
Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And that should have up to date everything.
Correct.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Faith.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for telling me the buttons to press as well.
You're very welcome.
So then on day 3, Danielle, who is a really incredible cultural safety educator, is going to give us a 2-hour session on that. She is going to talk all about sort of racism and bias in women's healthcare, but she is also an incredible shaman and yoga teacher, and so she's going to weave a whole lot of her kind of magical, mystical, experiential stuff into that teaching session. So I think that will be really incredible, and that also is going to fulfill, certainly for medical practitioners, the CAPE requirements for cultural safety.
And I think the other important thing with this is about the idea of decolonizing women's health in general. And I think when you look back again at the systems and the environment, and because that's such an important layer in our framework, the way our bodies have been really colonized and our power has sort of been taken from us to the point that we outsource everything, that this is, we really believe that this is going to be a really potent, important, again, shift of perspective to help us kind of understand the way things are the way they are, and also to understand how we can start challenging that for ourselves, the way we practice, and also with our patients, because that also takes away that shame of, well, it's not because your body is broken, it's because our environment is completely not set up to honor our bodies at all.
Yeah.
And that's empowering.
Absolutely. So on day 3, we're going to do more kind of neuroscience of pain, but particularly related to pelvic pain. And so look at all of the different drivers that contribute to pelvic pain, from endo to pelvic muscle tension to inflammation and gut health, our nervous system, our sense of connection, all of the drivers that kind of play into why a person might have chronic pain.
Associations with lots of crossover conditions.
And then really bringing all of that information into how we talk to our patients using that trauma-informed lens. So actually really bringing it all together with how we can explain to our patients, these are all the things that are contributing, particularly talking about the nervous system, and weaving in and sort of tying together how our early life experiences, traumas, ongoing stress might be actually usually the biggest driver of pain, in a way that is soothing and validating for our patients and clients, because I think a lot of the time patients can misconstrue these explanations as it being told their symptoms are in their head, which is absolutely not what is going on. And so we're really going to look at sort of the language we can use to help really explain their pain.
And most of the time when we explain it and put it all together, they're like, oh my God, this makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And then they have the agency to we can then start to use those top down and bottom up strategies. And so then in the afternoon session, we'll be giving you all of the scripts that we use. So we'll have in your workbooks, and if you're doing the online course, it will all be downloaded, like all of the scripts that we use.
Literally like the words to say to explain it.
Yeah. So if you ever get stuck, then you can just have them on your desk and you can. So talking about safety reappraisal with endometriosis, talking about evidence-based, like when we're talking about targeted medical care for endometriosis and pelvic pain, what are the actual evidence-based things that we can do and use, and how can we counsel patients about that? Talking about the nervous system, talking about how pain works, the different kinds of pain.
Explaining all the different nervous system states.
Yeah.
Explaining how we do the practices to shift state. I think Paula's even going to put in the script for her pelvis meditation. The list of all of the scripts we're going to do is actually in the chat. So there's heaps and heaps and heaps, so you can have a look at that. But I think that will be really practical.
And we can all useful. Practice together.
Yeah, that's right. So then we'll just practice in pairs and really learn to ultimately like use the language of the nervous system. I think that's what it is. And then again, we'll have an integration practice at the end.
And so our last day, we're going to start with a somatic rage practice. Now, this is dear to our heart at Vera because we have probably 2 rage stations at least. We have a big pile of bricks, and we used to throw lots of old crockery at it with our patients. I think we've run out of old plates now. So we've now moved on to, we have a big tractor tire and lots of big rubber axe handles. From Bunnings, and we often, when we have someone, or even ourselves, if we're feeling that rage, we can go and move that that rage through us, and that can be a really big part of healing from a fear-based like state. So, or out of that freeze when we feel helpless, we need to sometimes move through that energy to get to mobilize our energy to get to a place of regulation. So we're going to do that, which is always very fun, and lots of probably sacred screams, which we love as well. First thing in the morning, we'll feel good for the rest of the day. You can tell we're excited about this program. And then we're going to talk about reducing inflammation, and this is more than just, what we would talk about in terms of diet or supplements, but we're going there, and we're also talking about medications, using hormones. But the bigger picture would be nervous system regulation as an anti-inflammatory, which is, again, we're going upstream. We're thinking systems level stuff. And we're looking at all of the evidence-informed ways to help do that with our patients. And then this is probably our favorite one,
the best part,
which is pain as a portal to transformation, which is how we can think about pain, as we've talked about before, as not just this meaningless, horrible thing that's happening to us, but as an invitation to awakening, something that is giving us information about a nervous system that is overwhelmed for whatever reason, finding what that is, and having that be the thing that leads us not only out of pain and suffering, but also enables us to expand and to actually be able to access why it is we're here. And I guess that's also incorporating spirituality into the way we view healing, and we think that's a really important part of it. It's not just about looking at the physical body, and we're going to go into that in a lot of detail, and also present some cases and some really beautiful transformations that we've been fortunate enough to witness, and how you can witness that as well, because really it's about walking alongside, witnessing, and without that trying to take away someone's pain, because we see it as one of the problems in medicine. Yes, of course we want to relieve suffering, but throughout all of medicine, the just let's kill the pain has always ended in disaster. It doesn't work, and we talk about why. But if you are open and you understand this philosophy as a practitioner or a client, you can actually lead people to access more joy, more meaning in their lives, not just take away a symptom like pain. And that's what's transformational.
Yeah.
It's about expanding capacity to feel everything. And that's what all the nervous system stuff is as well. So that's, bringing it all home. And then the last two parts of the day are going to be all about you again. So this is where we are going to integrate and reflect and find out what what we want to take from the retreat and bring into our lives. Where have things been out of alignment with us? What are there some chronic symptoms? Are there some things in our own lives that are like knocking on our door saying, I can't keep doing this? How, in order to be able to do this sort of work, what needs to shift in your personal life, in your logistical setup, in your practice? And we're going to talk about things that have worked for us and changes that we've made, because probably if we thought about this 10 years ago, we would have thought, like, how can you do that? Impossible.
Yeah.
But we're going to, just talk about some things that have worked for us and then invite you to bring everything that you've learnt, go inward, think about what the changes you want to see in your life. And then we're going to really do some like visioning on that and give you a whole lot of time just to like collate all of that in this beautiful relaxed space, and then come back together in the afternoon, and we're going to have a beautiful women's circle and share what we've learned, what we want to change, and have just close the space. Assessment wise, we didn't really want to muddy the last day with assessment. So what we were going to do instead is, a week later, we will email you a case, and then you'll have a couple of weeks to email us back a written formulation where you're bringing it all together. And then that's from the patient perspective. And then we'll have some journal prompts about things that you've reflected on, that you've changed in your practice and personal life. And because we think that's really important. And then we'll probably do a Zoom, a month after the retreat. And we have been thinking about setting up an ongoing container where we have a Zoom maybe once a month or something, to share cases, to share our challenges, to support each other with making the changes that we need to make to be well-resourced clinicians. Because I think the more people you see practicing in a way that's sustainable, we just want to see more practitioners be lit up, excited about their work, not stressed to their eyeballs, not burnt out, so that they can deliver this kind of care that we think is so paradigm shifting and so life changing for women. And we can't do it by ourselves, and so we just want we want to expand that community.
Yes, spread the word.
Yes.
And for everyone who comes to the retreat, we're going to give you a booklet, which will have lots of journal prompts and writing and things, but also all of the scripts to talk about every facet of pain and the nervous system, and also all of the resources that we use, because Peta and her graphic designer have made lots of really beautiful visual resources to help our patients understand the nervous system, to understand pain, to understand endo, and we use them. I would use them with every single patient, and they're just invaluable. So we're going to give all of those to you as well. And for those who do the online course, that will be just in a digital format. Yeah.
And so if you come to the retreat, you'll also get access to the online program, so that you'll be able to, view recordings again. Obviously, all the PDFs and stuff will be there. And CPD, there's about 20
I think it's 29.
Yeah, about 29 hours for both. We've got applications in for RANZCOG and for RACGP that are just waiting approval, but I'm sure they'll be approved.
Yep.
And so that will all be there. I think someone asked about clothing and comfortable clothing, except dress like a goddess night. You just can still comfortable, of course, but
yeah,
just show up as your authentic self.
yeah,
Is what
in
we would
clothes
say.
that you can move in.
Yeah.
I think. Does anyone? We might sort of start the question part of the evening now. I suppose just quickly with the online format, it pretty much follows that exact flow. So all of the talks will just be, each different week, and it's a 12-week course. Some of the weeks might have 2 different recordings to watch, but we aim for each talk to be around an hour. So there should be an hour, maybe 2 of listening, and then the same journaling prompts and kind of, I guess, questions to help you to think a bit more deeply about things in the online workbook as well. So, does anyone have any questions? See if we can find chat. What is this? Can I close that? Faye, can you help us find the chat?
It's in the bottom toolbar.
Okay, where is that?
If you hover down below.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
It's like
I can only see your Chrome tab.
Okay, do I stop? Maybe I'll stop
Yeah,
sharing
that's
the
okay.
screen.
There aren't any questions in the chat. I've just, but I have added the online program if anyone's interested in the way the online overview is structured with the modules. And we'll note that if you are doing the retreat and the online program, you can claim combined CPD hours as well for across the colleges because there are different learning modalities. So you're doing one in person, you don't one online. You're learning, yeah. So
so you get 50
positive.
hours.
Yes, you could get up to 50, which is for GPs.
Basically everything.
That's your 50 hours in a year done. So
it's a very nice way to do it.
Yes, yeah. And we had another question about if this is being recorded. So yes, it is being recorded. So you can rewatch this if you want to have an understanding of this program again, or for anybody who didn't make it live.
There are some questions that were pre-submitted, which we might quickly run through. I don't specialize in pelvic pain. Will this still be relevant for me? I would say absolutely. I think while I guess we have come to this framework through our experience with pelvic pain, once you understand the nervous system, you can start to appreciate that actually any chronic symptom really falls under this way of practicing. And our nervous system is very clever at, I guess, providing symptoms of all different types when that sense of overwhelm is too high. And that can be things like migraines or gut symptoms or back pain or rashes. I've had patients with rashes who, once their nervous system reaches regulation, that all goes away.
And menopause symptoms even, and PMDD, and then the ones that go with it, which we'll talk about why the POTS and the MCAS and the hypermobility and all of that stuff.
It all falls under the same umbrella.
Yes, it does.
I'm getting some questions in the chat, if you guys can see them.
So is the online program live? So the online program, each week the lectures will be pre-recorded, so you can actually. We thought this was a better way to do it because last year we did do a program for our clients, which was about healing pelvic pain, and often people couldn't make it exactly when we were delivering the thing, or it would be a lunch break and it would be a bit stressful. So it's pre-recorded, and then you can listen to it, watch it at any time that suits you over that week. But then week 7, which is in the middle of the program, is a live Q&A, and so we talk about everything that your reflections or whatever that you've had over that time. We would get you to submit some some stuff about your own nervous system mapping, and we're going to talk about that and bring up the most relevant themes. And then the end of the program, there's also a live Q&A as well. So there's going to be 2 live components, and we probably will do the same thing where we'll combine everybody and have that, monthly sort of check-in for people who want to continue to have this community.
Oh, here we go. I can see questions now.
Okay.
When does the online course start? So the retreat starts on the 17th of April and the online starts on the 4th of May. And the registrations for the online component close on the 1st of May. And then it will just be weekly after that. Cherie says, I have sore wrists and can't lean on them for yoga. Will this be a problem? Absolutely not. No. Paula will provide all sorts of variations, and we've really wanted to limit the numbers for the retreat to make it really personalized. So no, you don't have to have any ability to do anything.
And also the thing about yoga, I think that we think just automatically is that it's all about the asanas, like the postures, but yoga is so much more than that. And like we will be probably working with so much more of the mindfulness, like not the body with our yoga. So absolutely not a problem at all.
Claire says, is it useful for people working in public gynae where time is limited in terms of seeing people with persistent pain? Yes, 100%.
Because also, even if you have a smaller amount of time, but you have presence and you have a way that you can organize the way you're going to, the structure of the things that you need to talk about with somebody, which can, I guess, make your use of time much more efficient. That's really important. And also because this work is so needed in the public spaces. And like we are, we need change to happen there too, because the women that go to public hospitals deserve this kind of care as well. And we need to be able to say, actually, this is a complex condition. This can't be seen in 15 minutes. This needs to be 45 minutes, at least an hour, and if we have a framework that helps to support clinicians and they're not going in completely frazzled because, I know what it's like working in a public gynae clinic. And, I don't think women are getting the best care that they could get because the practitioner is so hasn't eaten lunch, is dysregulated, hasn't gone to the toilet in 12 hours.
And I just think, imagine what you could teach your colleagues and your registrars having learnt this stuff. We have a friend who's a gynecologist in a public hospital who's done a lot of this work with us. And she teaches her registrars meditation. She takes them on journeys into their pelvises. She talks about all of this stuff to her juniors. And so they're all starting to speak the language of the nervous system and to understand their own systems as well. So I actually think it's invaluable. And yes, a lot of this stuff is hard to put into practice in that system, but we always talk about the 1%, the one little change that you can make, even if it's that you are a more regulated practitioner. When you're seeing someone who's really dysregulated, you'll have the tools within yourself to help that person come into regulation. So perhaps you would be able to give them that little nugget of information that really helps.
Or it might even be something as simple as, if you're working in a public gynae clinic, that you understand the importance of neuroeducation before the person, and you have limited time, so you can implement a pathway of those patients when they get their appointment, of providing them with a link to information that they can start to work on right away, so they can start to understand what's happening in their body to turn down pain and fear and inflammation right away. And that actually gives you more time to be with the person and to then go through their options with them. Yeah, I think that it's so invaluable. And I think we can make these changes in private, but then I guess so things we can see what works, and then hopefully then that is driven into bigger organizations where harder to change from at the start, but would be so valuable. And women do not, it's horrible that there is this inequity. So it would be so valuable.
I wish I knew this stuff when I was
I do too.
Yeah. Okay, that seems to be the end of the question.
Oh, and the other thing is throughout the program on Kajabi, so if you come to the retreat or you are doing it online, you still get access to Kajabi, which is the online learning space, and there is an online community there too. So if you have any questions that pop up throughout any of the online stuff or post during the retreat, you want to talk about something, share cases, whatever, we can do that through that community.
Yeah. Okay.
You done?
I think that's it. If nobody has any more questions.
Yes, thank you for attending and for sharing your time with us. And we hope that you got a little bit more information about our program, and we would all just absolutely love to see you.
If you have any questions that you would like us to ask, please, you can actually just reply, I think, to the marketing email. Faith, tell me if that's wrong, but I'm pretty sure you can just reply to the marketing email and we'll write back to you answering any questions. Oh, there we go. Faith's put the email in the chat, marketing@verawellness.com.au, and also the link to the programs and everything so you can have more of a look as well. But we would deeply, deeply love to see everyone there.
And thank you, Faith, for being so amazing.
Thanks, Faith. Sorry.
That's all right. Happy to help. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thanks everyone.